A tooth for a tooth. First said by King Hammurabi of Babylon, this idea and set of ideas has been used throughout history, resurfacing very recently by Mahatma Gandhi saying an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Both of these statements carry a very large amount of implications for the way humanity is structured, in the very way we think about fairness and equality. Now, first of all, we really need to talk about what this means and what it meant whenever it was first said, because it very much so is an interesting concept that any punishment should be exactly the crime that was committed to deserve the punishment. Again, if you stab out somebody's eyes, your punishment would be to get your own eye stabbed out. And it was a fair system. It made perfect sense. If you killed a man, you would be put to death. It very much so was a good system to keep people in check during medieval times, the first code of law that Hammurabi put into place. And Hammurabi's code, overall, being the first form of law, it was a relatively successful one, being strict enough to keep order, but not overly strict to promote being a tyrant, being very oppressive over citizens, although there was still some wiggle room for authority to have an upper hand in these governments. It was very much so an equal in the eyes of the court sort of thing. But Mahatma Gandhi would later say, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, which is very much so a interesting opposition to take against this specific stance, because it makes sense too. If you continually make an act punishment that is fit for the act, it will end up in, the whole world would be a terrible place. If every time you stole something, you would get something stolen from you. If you stabbed somebody's eyes out and you got yours eyes stabbed out, it would be a terrible punishment. And basically what he was attempting to get across with this is that sure, there should still be punishment, but it's almost idiotic to make other people's lives harder just because of what they've done to others. Reform over punishment in a way. And we've seen this very much so in multiple ways. Like, the US prison system, in my eyes, is very much so more based on punishment than reform. It's been okay, you did something bad, we're gonna take some of your life away from you. A punishment for a crime. Where we've seen in other places where sure, you still have to serve some sort of prison time, but it's more about reforming you than just sort of punishing you for that. Instead of just making your life miserable for a couple of years and not really allowing you to grow, they sort of give you an opportunity to change, which is more valuable in more ways than one, because change is honestly the only thing that really keeps the good and the bad people, trying to be good. Because every single time we do something bad, there should be a chance for redemption. There should be a chance for reform. Because to face it, in extreme honesty, we've all done something bad in our lives. And if we lived in a world where one bad thing would cause us to go to jail for the rest of our lives, we would live in a society devoid of people other than those behind bars. And so in his many teachings of nonviolence, Gandhi very much so put this into perspective. It should be about reform, not punishment. But I sort of disagree with this to a degree, because I feel like there should be both reform and punishment, Some things can only be taught through punishment. Some things can only be taught through reform. It's very much so a thing where we have to play it by ear, and depending on the situation, depends on the actions that should be taken. And we've seen many examples of this throughout history. There are countless examples. Every book you read, every story you hear, there are examples of both sides of this sort of standpoint. But I just find it so interesting that so many people side with only one. It has to be either pacifism or being extremely aggressive, totalitarian sort of thing. But it doesn't have to be that way. There can be a medium in this situation. And that's really always the argument I've tried to speak for this topic. And I do think we can do a good deal about reforming our reform systems, especially in the United States, but that's, again, an argument for a different video. And very much so, but it's another question to be raised. And again, this is all about raising questions, and very much so a question I would like to ask all of you. Is reform better, or is punishment better? Or do you believe in a happy medium like I do? It's very much so something I've always liked to think about, always pondered, but it's never been one of the things I've really spoken about on this channel yet. So I think that does mark the end of the video right there. If you did enjoy, of course, like, comment, subscribe, all of that YouTube stuff. If you do really want to start a conversation, again, the comments is a very perfect place to start. I have plenty of other videos like this one and some other ones, all linked in the 2 playlists that will be on this video. And I do thank you all for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the comment section.